Jack Knight Winters. This is Jack Frost University, and I'm here at my headquarters in Chautauqua in Boulder, Colorado. And today I wanted to talk about, this is going to be part of my series entitled The Way of the Sovereign, Steps to Becoming a Secured Party Creditor. And I'm going to be talking about the 12 Presumptions of Court. I pulled this document. This is having a hard time finding. I've been looking into canon law lately. Canon law is supposed to be the highest law. I think it's even higher than the jurisdiction of the sea. It's air jurisdiction. I don't know what the relationship is between the Catholic Church and London, because they're two power points. It looks like the highest authority on the entire planet is the Temple Bar. Okay, bankers and attorneys. The Temple Bar, which has its very interesting history, and I've always been in love with the Knights Templars and their history because they have a great one. But it looks like they're still, they have all the gold. In Switzerland, and the Bank of International Settlements and everything, looks like that the Temple Bar in Switzerland is the Bank of International Settlements is the Bank of International Settlements is the bank that all of the Federal Reserve banks go to. All the central banks go to this bank. So they must have all the gold, right? And I'm having a hard time finding this canon law. I've got the book called the Code of Canon Laws, but it only goes up to canon law like 1800, and this one is canon 3228, and I'm having a hard time finding this. Maybe it's because it hasn't been translated into English or something, but all of this information, these 12 presumptions of court, it already falls in line with everything else that I've been learning and studying about contract law and about how the world operates. So I feel safe to go ahead and talk about this, and maybe I'll just figure out where this information came from later. But it's called the 12 Presumptions of Court. Okay, so let me read this. A Roman court does not operate according to any true rule of law, but by presumptions of law. Therefore, if presumptions presented by the private bar guild, it's a private bar guild, they claim to be public, but it's public, like all of your criminal background and all the crimes and committed under your social security number. It's all out there on the internet, even your photos from being in jail for a couple days or whatnot. It's public, but it's public within the private. You see, so it's private. Even if they say it's public, it's private. Everything they do is in the private. Therefore, if presumptions presented by the private bar guild are not rebutted, they become fact and are therefore said to stand as true, or as truth in commerce. Okay, because an unrebutted affidavit stands as truth in commerce. Okay, it keeps you engaged in the system, in the matrix. You got to stay engaged. They send you something, you have to rebut it. Otherwise, it becomes truth in law. There are 12 key presumptions asserted by the private bar guilds, which, if unchallenged, stand true, being public record, public service, public oath, immunity, summons, custody, court of guardians, court of trustees, government as executor beneficiary, executor dissentort, incompetence, and guilt. So that was a list of the 12 presumptions that the court makes, okay? And if you want your rights back, if you want some freedom, you have to rebut. You have to inform the world and let the world know that your status has changed and that you're no longer operating under these presumptions. Okay, number one, the presumption of public record is that any matter brought before a lower Roman court is a matter for the public record, when in fact it is presumed by the members of the private bar guild that the matter is a private bar guild business matter. unless openly rebuked and rejected by stating clearly the matters to be on the public record, the matter remains a private bar guild matter, completely under private bar guild rules. So yeah, like I said, we're thinking that everything's public because everything that the federal government they put on the public record. They have what's called the congressional record. They have the all the Supreme Court case findings are all made in the public. When people get arrested, their photo gets put on the internet, so it's like it's public. But that's one of the presumptions, is what it's saying. It's a presumption of public record. It's not public record. It's all private record. So it's public operating. It's public record, but it's operating within the private bar guild, so it's private. Okay, that's the first presumption of the court. And when it says lower Roman court, it's talking about your county courts. Okay, an inferior Roman court or a lesser Roman court is a county court, because they when they don't get things resolved at the county level, it gets escalated all the way up to the Supreme Court. So that would be a superior. Well, I think they even call it that, superior court, right? So a lower Roman court is just a county court, or it could be a state court too. Number two, the presumption of public service is that all the members of the private bar guild who have all sworn a solemn, secret, absolute oath to their guild then act as public agents of the government or public officials by making additional oaths of public office that openly and deliberately contradict their private superior oaths to their own guild. Unless openly rebuked and rejected, the claim stands that these private bar guild members are legitimate public servants and therefore trustees under public oath. So the second presumption of the court is the presumption of public service. Okay? We believe they're operating under the presumption that they are public officials operating under a public oath, that they're acting under as trustees under public oath. Okay, they're not. It's all private. It's just a commercial corporation in Delaware. All right, that's what this is saying. Unless openly rebuked and rejected, the claim stands that these private bar guild members are legitimate public servants. See, you have to rebuke that and rebut that presumption and say, you're not actually government. You're not an authority figure over me. You have to state this publicly. Okay. Number three, the presumption of public oath is that all members of the private bar guild acting in the capacity of public officials who have sworn a solemn public oath remain bound by that oath and therefore bound to serve honestly, impartiality, and fairly as dictated by their oath. Unless openly challenged and demanded, the presumption stands that the private bar guild members have functioned under their public oath in contradiction to their guild oath. If challenged, such individuals must recuse themselves as having a conflict of interest and cannot possibly stand under a public oath. So, third presumption of the court is the presumption of public oath. Who have sworn a... So they take two oaths, basically. Their only real oath that they need to follow is their private bar guild oath, which has nothing to do with us and our freedom and liberty and rights, right? They take this private bar guild oath first, and then the public oath that they take, upholding what they say the federal constitution, or well, they have another oath that they put on the record sometimes. But that's just imaginary. It's just for show. It's just an act. They're operating. They're just acting. Okay. The presumption of immunity is number four. The presumption of immunity is that key members of the private bar guild, in the capacity of public officials, acting as judges, prosecutors, and magistrates who have sworn a solemn public oath in good faith, are immune from personal claims of injury and liability. Unless openly challenged and their oath demanded, the presumption stands that the members of the private bar guild, as public trustees acting as judges, prosecutors, and magistrates, are immune from any personal accountability for their actions. So, number four, the fourth presumption of the court is that they are operating, or like trying to trick us into thinking that they are somehow immune, like they can't get in trouble, like they can't be punished, reprimanded, or any of that. Okay, that's a presumption. Yes, they can. Okay, they are not immune from personal claims of injury or liability. So we do have the ability to make claims and to put liens on them. Okay, they are not immune from claims and liens, commercial liens. Number 5, the presumption of summons is that by custom a summons unrebutted stands, and therefore one who attends court is presumed to accept a position. Defendant, juror, witness, and jurisdiction of the court. Attendance to court is usually invitation by summons, unless the summons is rejected and returned, with a copy of the rejection filed prior to choosing to visit or attend. Jurisdiction and position as the accused and the existence of guilt stands. They're operating under the presumption that when you get a summons to court, that you accept that position in a courtroom. When they give you a summons, you have to reject it and return it. That starts with that traffic ticket, okay? And then you have to reject it. From the very get-go, when you get a traffic ticket, any kind of ticket or anything from the government, you have to send it back and say, no, don't send me this shit again. You have to rebut that. You have to really be engaged in this. There must be a trick to camouflage your address or something so people can't send you crap. And then we'll just do number 6 and we'll finish the rest later. The presumption of custody is that by custom a summons or warrant for arrest unrebutted stands, and therefore one who attends court is presumed to be a thing and therefore liable to be detained in custody by custodians. This includes the dead legal fiction non-human person that corporate government's rules and regulations are written for. You're not a person, you're a living man or a woman. Unless this presumption is openly challenged by rejection of summons and or at court, the presumption stands you are a thing and property and therefore lawfully able to be kept in custody by custodians. So this 6th presumption of the court is that a summons for your warrant or arrest, summons or a warrant for arrest, unrebutted, stands. So you have to send back you have to do something with these arrest warrants. You have to squash them somehow. You got to be really engaged with this commerce system. And I'll read the other 6 later. That's just the first presumptions of court, okay?